All right, welcome to the Daily Recap, guys. Breaking CBK here, of course, on what is February 1st, 2018. I am here at the Starladder Studios, essentially. We're at the arena that they actually have some Starladder events at previously. So here, of course, casting for the WESG qualifier, or not really qualifiers, the North American and South American main event. I've been over this. If you've been watching the Daily Recaps, you know what I'm talking about, but I'm here in Kiev. But as I made a promise, I wanted to make a point to make sure to do my daily recaps throughout the time that I am here. So thus why we are doing today's now. There is quite a bit to talk about today, actually. There was a pretty big announcement that came out with a roster move. I know, it feels like I'm talking to somebody. I'm not. I'm talking to the camera, though. No, it's fine. No, the ambience is great. That's not a big deal. I expected that, obviously. I'm not doing this. I want everyone to shut up. Anyways. So yeah, there was some pretty big news. There was a big roster move that happened. We'll get into that in just a second, though. I figure we'll start with the results first, as usual, and then we'll talk about the pretty big news that happened in case you missed it. It's pretty big stuff. Anyways, all right, so we got the Starladder 8-team event going on. It started this morning, of course, day number 1, the Group A action. Pretty straightforward. It happened as expected. Liquid went 2-0, of course, over not only Infamous, but then they went 2-0 over LGD. As well, and they kept strong, so no surprise there. Undefeated out of Group A. They advance on to the semifinals. They're going to wait their opponent, which will be second place, of course, from Group B. On the other side, LGD versus Complexity. Again, as much as I love my boys Complexity, I did not see them getting through. They had a pretty disappointing performance at ESL 1 Genting. And the same thing here. I don't want to say disappointing because LGD, they are yet another team out of China that's been looking very good lately. They went through some roster changes, of course, picking up Chalice most recently in their offlane position. X-Nova joining the team as well. This new roster seems like it's gelling very well together. And LGD, I would not be surprised to see an LGD Liquid final, honestly, in this event. Now, of course, Liquid Newbie is the one that we expect the most, but again, I won't be surprised if it happens to be LGD versus Liquid in the finals. But LGD, then, as mentioned, they lost to Liquid, 2-0. And also what I believe was a pretty one-sided series. Again, I didn't get to watch the matches for obvious reasons. You know, my schedule's not really working as far as watching these matches here. But the recapping that I did, that's why it seemed like it played out. So there you go. WESG, just a quick note on this. Again, it kicks off. They casted the first match. The second one's going to be starting. It's Grant and Lacoste. They're doing the first two here. Then myself and Gareth will hop on. And we're going to bounce back and forth on this series throughout today and throughout tomorrow and, well, the next 4 days even. So, of course, we're trying to find out the 4 of the 7 teams that advance on to the main event. And from North America, at least. And South America, it'll be the top 3 teams, I believe. So, that's happening. And obviously, I'll keep you guys updated. Not really much to say. There was one result so far as I'm recording this. But really, we'll go over how it shaped up come tomorrow, and it'll be a better recap for the event itself then. All right, that leads us into the pretty big news. So, coming today, and I get told, I think Gareth is the one that mentioned it to me, actually. Pulled up his Twitter, and he's like, did you see this news? No clue what he's talking about. Look at it. Rodjer and Lil swap places between Virtus.pro and NaVi. That is not something I don't think anyone would have seen coming when it comes to some roster changes. Obviously, we have the roster lock pretty much happening here soon. I want to say in the next couple of days, where it's going to be official. You'll have no more chance to switch out your roster, and so apparently this has been in the talks for at least a couple of days. There's been some rumors, but I would not have expected this to happen. So the move happened. Rodjer, of course, formerly of Empire, latest of NaVi. I think he is a fantastic player, somewhat underrated even. I thought in that run that Empire had at TI7, yes, resolution was, of course, a big part of that and the ultimate part of that, but I think Rodjer did very well as well. He was kind of underappreciated in a lot of ways at the event and a very good player. So it's not surprising in that aspect necessarily. When it comes to skill-wise, I think you could make an argument that Rodjer is a better player, but they're both very, very good players. But again, destroying the team chemistry is the thing that a lot of people are looking at. It's like, is this really the best decision if you're Virtus.pro? And I got to kind of agree right there. Lil's been with that roster forever. Nahaz posted a stat. They've played, as those 5 players, they have like a 70% win percentage. They've not many teams play as many games as 5 together as they have throughout Dota 2 history. So has to speak for something, and you got to wonder if that's going to, mess with that chemistry, of course. But again, Rodjer is a solid player. Now that leads us to another kind of interesting topic that's been brought up as a result of this trade, I guess you can call it, is how this affects NaVi's points in the Dota 2 Pro circuit. And as I'm showing you guys right here, NaVi, they actually jumped up. It was an insane amount because, how it works is, to reiterate, the top 3 players on your team, those points are added up between those 3 players, and then that's your total. So it's not all 5, it's just the top 3. And again, one of the, I guess, possibilities that was brought up from the beginning was like, well, what happens when players jump from one team to the other? And we'll just have to wait and see. This is a perfect example of what happens. NaVi jumped up quite a bit in the rankings. They only had, what was it? That would have been 210 points, I want to say. Yeah, they went from basically 12th place all the way up to 5th place because of this move, because Lil, he brought actually 900 of his own points, and then again, you add the next 2 in line, which doesn't matter which 2 players, they all have 105, but because of the 900 that Lil's bringing to the table, they went from 12th to 5th place, and Virtus Pro, on the other hand, they lost nothing, because, again, it's only the top 3 players, so with Solo leaving, not Solo, excuse me, Solo's still part of the team, with Lil leaving, that did nothing to their points, and there is another level to this where Virtus Pro and NaVi, there are connections with the 2 organizations at the highest level when it comes to the management. And the wonder if this trade was made for the purpose of boosting NaVi in hopes that both teams will be now in a very good spot to ultimately qualify for TI. Honestly, that's probably a very likely possibility, and I'm sure that was thought about at least with this trade happening, no doubt. But to say that that's, going to lead to that ultimately, and that's just they're abusing the system, I don't even think that's necessarily the case, because we only have given out 30% of the 100% of points that are going to be given out throughout the season. There's still a long season ahead of us, and if NaVi wants to ultimately qualify for TI, they're going to have to earn points throughout upcoming events. So to sit here and suggest that this was just a shady move or whatever, I'm not necessarily sold on it at all. I do think that was part of it, and I guess it's just determined, again, whether or not you think it's shady or it should have been allowed. According to the system and how it's set up, it is allowed, and again, on a personal level, I think it's just fine. I think it's a smart decision by NaVi and VP to almost kind of work together, very likely, to make this happen. So, again, both good players. I think you can argue it's even maybe an upgrade for both teams. Lil, obviously, he's known as a very cocky player, and you got to wonder if that maybe was starting to hurt the behind the scenes a little bit with the team, and that is what helped ultimately lead to this change. But who knows? Again, it's all speculation. Whether or not we'll actually get the information, don't know for sure. But so that was a big roster move that we woke up to today. Again, I want to say the roster is closed tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, or very, very shortly here. So maybe we'll see another big move out of nowhere. China specifically, of course, is a high possibility. Could see something out of there. So one last piece of news I figured it was worth bringing up. Not necessarily competitive focused, but it will affect the competitive scene. And that is the tweet from IceFrog. We do not get many of these tweets. He's a very confined figure, the one that does not speak often. So when IceFrog speaks, the world listens, especially in the Dota 2 world. And today he actually sent out a tweet, or yesterday, whatever, making a point that they're going to change up how they do patches when it comes to balancing the game. And, usually we've had these huge patches that come out maybe once every 6 months or whatever, 4 to 6 months. But instead, it's actually going to be every 2 weeks now on every Thursday. Now, of course, this naturally means it's not going to be as big of a patch, every single patch. It's going to be much, much smaller, but it'll be much more consistent. These minor changes will be coming, and then occasionally I'm sure they'll have some bigger additions, like a new hero or some much bigger balance changes. But they're making a point that they're going to be patching the game every Thursday, and a lot of games already do this. So when you really think about it, it's kind of interesting that Valve, or more so Dota 2, has been different in that aspect. But I will say, coming from Heroes and Newer, this is something that happened as well every 2 weeks. Essentially, a new patch came out, and I do think it has potential to be pretty healthy for the game. I know there's those that are out there that are wondering if it's going to hurt the integrity of the competitive scene and how it's going to make, qualifying for events and then actually playing at the events. It's not going to be the same game. Guys, it's not going to be that dramatic of changes. At least I don't think it's going to be that. The occasional minor tweaks to some heroes, and yes, maybe lessening, like, say, in the upcoming one, I'm sure Lycan's going to be nerfed, for example. Fuck that hero. Exactly. But it wouldn't be surprised if something like that happens, and sure, that might change, but teams are going to have to adapt. I mean, that's just kind of how Dota is. That's how it's always been, about adapting to the changes that are brought to us. So, again, I'm actually excited for it as a spectator. I would be curious how a lot of the players feel, and over time, I'm sure we'll get their reactions on it. But I know my former Han players; they're going to have no problem with this. I would assume they're probably all for it. Swinamon specifically, I'm sure he's all for it. And I got to think most are willing to adapt when it comes to these changes that do happen every 2 weeks now. So, okay, I think that pretty much covers it, though, for our daily recap on February. We're in February. We made it to February, guys. We got through January, started at the first year of the new year, and made it through a whole month. So excited to be doing this. Again, here I am in Kiev, casting for the WESG North American and South American qualifiers, as odd as that sounds, I know. But, no, excited to be here, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this daily recap. And, of course, I'll do my best to be back tomorrow and give you guys any updates, any more roster changes, maybe Samel being traded. Who knows? It's going to be some crazy stuff happening these last couple of days, apparently, when it comes to some roster changes. All right, guys, take it easy. Thanks for tuning in. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, all over the place. I'll see you guys tomorrow.